Hello everyone, my name is Patty and I'm from the YouTube channel Patty's Aquatics. Aquafinity reached out to me a while back and asked if I had any interest in doing an interview for his channel. I said I'd be more than happy to. A little bit about myself first though, is I've been in this hobby for a little over 20 years and I keep an entire fish room with dirted filterless tanks. I find this style of tank to be so amazing. The plant growth on them is just phenomenal. And if you're familiar with my channel, I showcase that all the time. But enough of that. If you're ready, let's get to this interview. First question is, how long have I been keeping fish and how old was I when I first started? Well, I'm 49 years old today. I got my first tank, I think when I was about 19 years old. So it's been about 30 years, but there was a gap of about 8 years where I gave up the hobby for a while. But to start in the beginning, it was about 1994 or so when I got my first tank. And at that time, there was no internet. The internet they had is nothing like it is today. There was no smartphones. Heck, I didn't even have a cell phone yet. So there was really no way to look things up. And to be honest with you, I really knew nothing at that point in time. I just knew I saw this aquarium in the store and I always wanted one, and I went and grabbed it and bought it. Brought it home, set it up and put some fish in there, and that multiple tank syndrome kind of started after that. Bought a few other tanks, had other type of fish. Eventually got married. Then we set up a community tank that I had never done before, and fish kept dying on me. Just kind of lost interest, so we sold the tanks and I got out of the hobby for a while. But then about 8 years later, like I said, fast forward, there's a guy I worked with. He had a 75-gallon heavily planted tank and he had a picture of it on his Facebook, and I seen that and just started drooling. I knew I wanted to try that and do that and get back into the hobby. And it just so happened at that same time, my son, who was into fish tanks at the time, wanted to get rid of his 65-gallon tank that he had, and he said I could have it. I told the wife, I said, hey, this is gonna be cheap. 50 bucks tops to buy some fish. I have everything else. Let's set it up and we can have a fish tank. She agreed, but I hear about it every single day almost afterwards, because it was not $50. Because after I got so enthralled and head first into this hobby again, I don't know how many hundreds and thousands of dollars I've spent over the years doing this hobby, but I hear about it all the time. There's always something you need and something you want. $50, huh? I always hear that from her, so I find that funny. But like I said, it's been 20 some years of actually in the hobby, and I love every minute of it. Question number 2 is, how many tanks do you have in your fish room? I've got 12, well, maybe 13. You be the judge, but let me show you. On this wall over here, I've got my 4 29-gallon tanks on these racks. And then on this wall, I've got some oddballs. I've got my 20 long, I've got a 10-gallon, I've got my 20 high, and then I have this hexagon tank, which I believe is a 20 to 25 gallons. I'm not 100% sure. I got it used. I have my 75-gallon puffer tank that I just brought down here about a month ago. Got my 100-gallon Rubbermaid tote. Then I also have a fish bowl. I have a 2.5-gallon that right now is used just to breed snails. And then the 13th, which I don't know, I don't really count it, but it could be, is my tote down there, which I have my crayfish in, which I'm currently trying to breed them, well, for food for that guy. But the beauty of my fish room is with these racks, with these cinder blocks and 2x4s, I can expand. And the plan is somewhere down the road is to expand. Now this wall will probably stay the same, but this is the wall I would like to expand on someday. I left it open where I could put tanks on the bottoms, and then I still could build up and add more tanks. So just don't tell the wife. So 12, 13 tanks currently. Question number 3 is, what types of fish do I currently keep in my fish room, and do I have a favorite species? Well, I keep mainly live bears. I find them to be very colorful and cool, and they're very easy to breed. Throw them in a tank with some live plants and set them and forget them, and you got babies. I used to keep some cichlids in the past when I first got back into the hobby, and not that they were difficult to keep, I really enjoyed them. I mean, I kept convex and bred them, and Salvini and Green Terror and just a mix of other ones. It's just you had to have more management with them, with aggression, especially when it came to breeding. Where live bears, I don't know, I just really got head over heels with them, with the amount of different species of live bears there are and colors. I just kind of really got into them, especially with this style of tank that I have. They kind of fit perfectly. So, but I don't just have live bears. I also have angelfish. I've got a breeding pair of silver veils here. I have a koi angel in this tank, but favorite species, I don't know if it's my favorite species, but it's definitely my favorite fish down here in my fish room. That is my butthead of a Fahaka puffer here, Puff Daddy. I find him to be the coolest fish down here. I love him. He's so personable. Right now, he's just laying here like a big lug, but he's usually up here on the glass begging for food and going nuts. So yeah, live bears mostly. And that's my favorite fish, Puff Daddy. Question 4 is to share with you my favorite setup or setups down here in my fish room. So what I want to share with you today is my 29 gallon down here. Now I have a lot of setups down here that I really love. I can't really say that I have a favorite, but this one has really interested me as of late. It was very bare when I first planted this thing about 3 months ago, and the plants have just really taken off. Currently, I just have this koi angel in here. I'm going to change that. I'm going to try to find something else to put in here. I'm just not 100% sure what I want to do with it yet, so I'm still kind of thinking and doing research. I also have a swap meet in February locally here where there'll be lots of different fish. So I'm thinking I'm going to wait till then just to see what's there. But as far as this tank, like I said, the plants have just grown in crazy. That little wiggy in the back is just taken off, and the way that it's kind of intermingled itself, so to speak, with the wood back there. Just, I don't know, I really like it. The plants have really gone nuts, and I'm really enjoying this tank, and it's becoming one of my favorites down here. Question number 5, how do I keep my tanks dirted, filterless, and healthy? Well, the short answer is I don't. Nature does. That's what I love about these tanks the most. It's like taking a slice of nature from outside and putting them in your aquarium to observe and try to achieve as close to a natural ecosystem as possible. Those plants grow so much within that soil, they become my filter. There's so many plants in there, they're constantly filtering the water. And then beneficial bacteria is everywhere within the tank, not even just in that deep substrate, but all over the walls, your hardscape, and your plants. So yeah, I don't have to do much. It does it for me. And that's why I love these tanks. Question number 6, what was your first fish tank like? Well, it was a hot mess. That's what it was like. I had a 29 gallon tank and I had blue gravel. My first fish though, that was a red belly piranha, which is what I have on my logo here. Kind of remind myself what that first fish was when I first started this journey. I really was into the predator fish at that time when I first saw it. I'm like, got the tank and I'm like, piranha at the fish store? I'm like, oh my God, I gotta have it. So put it in there. It lived very nice. I learned a lot about this type of fish in the beginning. They weren't that mad flesh-eating fish that they claimed to be, at least not one single one. You'd always huddle in the corner and be scared. So, but it was an interesting experience, but definitely a hot mess of a first tank. Question number 7, what is your most memorable experience as a fish keeper? Well, I've got quite a few experiences I think of, but probably one of the top ones that I remember the most is when I first started in the hobby. It's probably a couple of years in. My brother actually got a fish tank and he had a little community tank, and he went to a local fish store at that time and brought a fish home that they told him would be perfect for a community tank. Well, he brought it home and it said it started eating all his fish. So he asked if I wanted it because he knew I liked those type of predator fish. Well, what it was a snakehead. At that time, people didn't know what these things were. They weren't on the news and being able to see how invasive they really were. And that thing was insane. I kept it in a 55 gallon tank. Every morning I'd wake up, the lids of my tanks would be open. He's like, must have been hitting them with his beak to get out. I had to tape them shut. I would feed him mainly just feeder goldfish. I'd throw like 30 of them in at a time, and he'd eat like 10 of them at a crack and have them all in his mouth. So it was a very interesting fish to kind of observe and see in the beginning, but definitely something I would not keep now, but something that definitely will always stick with me as a very memorable moment. Question number 8, what's your favorite fish to breed, and do I have any tips for raising the fry? Well, like I said earlier, my favorite fish probably to breed really are live bears. They're easy, it's not much work to it. Any real tips, like I said, is make sure you put lots of live plants or some type of coverage in there for those fry. A lot of those species will try to eat their babies when they're young for those first few days especially. So it's very important to have some type of coverage for them to be able to hide into. I find I have more success when I have a tank that has got lots of hiding spots for those little fry to get into where those big fish cannot get at them. So favorite ones to breed, like I said, is really any of the live bearers that I have. I find them all fascinating and cool. Every time you find new babies in your tank, it's always like, ooh, ooh, ooh. So I love them. Question number 9, how has the hobby changed over the years? And what advancements have you found the most interesting? Well, tanks themselves and keeping the fish themselves, I don't think has really changed. You still use filters, you still use heaters, you still use all the same products that you normally would. Technology is definitely advanced, but I think the thing that advanced most is how you're watching this today. It's like YouTube, social media. There's so much more information out there and people be able to share what they're doing compared to what there were 20, 30 years ago, like when I first started. Like I said, there was nothing. I had no cell phones. The internet, what there was, is not what it is today. So to be able to just pick up a phone or one touch of a computer stroke and be able to find information that you're looking for is so beneficial now, I think, compared to what it was. So I find that very interesting. And also some of the technology that has come out over the years for some of the stuff, like especially with like lights and the Wi-Fi timers to be able to go on and change the intensities of your lights and set times that you want them to go on and off. I find that very beneficial and useful as well. So those are some main things that I find very cool that have advanced over the years. So the 10th and final question is, what advice would you give someone just starting out with your years of experience? Well, I would definitely say be yourself. That's the biggest, but also make sure you do lots of research. Like I said, if you know something that you want to do, there is so much information out there nowadays compared to when I first started with YouTube and social media, that people document their experiences all over the web that can help you find answers possibly that you're looking for. But also, don't forget, there's always more than one way to do things. And I know that pretty much for the way I've kept my tanks with no filters. So be yourself and be original, do your research, and always remember, there's always more than one way to do things. Well, that was my interview. I just want to say thank you very much to Aquafinity for allowing me to be able to show a little bit more about myself. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to his channel. He deserves it. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.